Golden Black Live, we're here. Coach Ross Els, Stacy Clarity joined me, and welcome to the show.
Thanks, Alan. Appreciate it.
And we're glad to have you. I want to thank you to our sponsors, Triple X, On the Hill but on the Level. It's Purdue tradition since 1929. John Basham and the good folks at Basham Rentals, already running for 2016-17. And it's kind of like recruiting; it never stops in that deal. And in the same way in apartment rental at Purdue, Hilton Garden Inns. When tomorrow's a big day, State HDI tonight, and of course State Farm agent Trent Johnson. Trent is myagent.com. And Coach, welcome to the show. We talked a little offline at National Signing Day. This whole process of moving and bringing your family here. That's you're kind of still in two different places at this point.
Yeah, and I think my family's kind of glad when I get away from them once in a while, so it's not all bad. But have wife and children they're actually in high school, finishing up high school in Nebraska right now, so they'll move out in June, and then I have twins that are seniors in high school, and they'll scatter off to wherever they're going, and it'll just be us two.
Yeah, that's a lot to deal with in a short period of time.
You opted to stay in Lincoln, so those two twins could finish out there. When we talked last week, I thought it was interesting that you got to coach your son's high school team, obviously, but you became a better coach too while you were there. You went to I think 12 to 15 different colleges, try to learn more, become a better coach. What did that year or 6 months or whatever it turned out to be? What did that do for your psyche, maybe, just as a father and as a guy, but then also how did it make you a better coach?
Well, first of all, people think I'm crazy, but there was no option with the decision. I had twins that were midway through their junior year of high school, and after we got fired at Nebraska, my choices were to leave, go take a job somewhere, leave them in Lincoln, and be without them their senior year.
Right.
Wasn't going to do that. Move them out wherever I get a job for their senior year. Wasn't going to do that. So there was no question about it. My wife and I were going to stay in Lincoln. There were four things I wanted to get accomplished, Stacy, and I think it really worked out well. Number one, I wanted to take a really good look at what I had done at the places, or we had done at the places I worked previously. For example, I had every clip from the last 3 years at Nebraska. We even went back to some Ohio University days. And sometimes you have a bias on what you think works well and what actually does. So I was able to evaluate it, number one. Number two, as you mentioned, I traveled about 15, maybe 17 different programs, all the way from the NFL down to the NAIA, most of them were Division I schools, where I had friends, and didn't just stop there for a day or an hour or something like that. I was 2 or 3 days at each location. I'm 50 years old. I'm still learning the game just like everyone else, and that was a big boost for me. You're not able to do that when you're actually coaching.
Right.
Third thing I was able to do, as you mentioned, I was able to coach my son's team. I had coached college football for 27 years and coached other people's kids for 27 years. I wanted to spend 1 year with my son, and that was fantastic. And then the final thing, which I'm finally getting to the answer to your question, I was able to put together, Ross, if you had a package that you wanted to run, what would it look like? And I was able to start from scratch, going through the evaluation, going through this new stuff I learned, and how I would want to do things defensively, special team-wise, recruiting-wise, head coach-wise. I've been all of those things.
Right.
I didn't know what the next job was going to be. So that year off was really, really nice. Plus, I got to spend more time with the family. We went on our first real family vacation in a decade. It was a big refresh button for me, and now it also makes me more hungry to get back at it this year.
Well played, I would say. When in your interview process with Daryl Hazel, the story, and Stacy does a great job of making sure I'm up to speed on stuff. But this whole notion of being in a hotel room and going through that package and explaining to him, talk about what that was like and how you sold yourself to this opportunity at Purdue.
Coach Hazel picked me up at the airport in Chicago, and we went to a nearby hotel room and sat down. And after, actually, we grabbed a bite to eat and got to know each other a little bit, because Coach Hazel and I kind of knew each other a little bit just when he was at Ohio State and I was at Ohio U, kind of a hi, how are you type deal. So we brief, informal there, but then when we got to the hotel room, it was, okay, let's go. And I already told him that, Coach, I have this presentation that I'd like to show you. Now, again, where do you want me to start? Do you want me to start with mission and philosophy? Do you want to go X's and O's? What do you want to talk technique? What do you want to do? He goes, mission and philosophy. He wanted to know if I was the right fit for this program and for these players. And so that's kind of how we started off. And when he said that to me, I said to myself, I'm at the right spot. because you want to have the right people around these kids. You don't want to have somebody that has a great X and O guys or great teacher, but doesn't treat kids the right way. So that's how we started it off, and then we got into the X's and O's and technique. We were there for 3 hours, and we didn't even come close to touching everything that you could touch in a defense. But we both got a feel from each other that this could work, and fortunately, I'm here now.
That certainly begs the question then is what will this defense be?
Yeah.
And I know when we talked before, you didn't quite say exactly kind of what you're looking for, but one of the players had told me that they've watched a lot of Nebraska film. Bo Pelini, I think, was, 60-70% nickel base, essentially? I mean, is that something that we could see here?
Yes,
or?
and it'll depend on what the offense gives us. We'll
Yeah.
match personnel as much as we possibly can. One of the disadvantages, though, that I'm at is I don't know what we really have defensively.
Right.
I've watched film of Purdue last year, but I don't know what they were taught, how they were coached. I have no idea. So until I get to see guys go in spring football, I don't really know which direction to take it. Now, saying that, and our defensive coaches are kind of getting tired of me, we have a huge package right now. We've gone over every possible thing that we would want to run, but we will start just a little bit at a time and see where we are, see what we do well, see how we can match up with people, and then keep adding to that defense. We'll pick from here, we'll pick from here, we'll pick from here.
Is it important to know what went on last year? I mean, some coaches it just truly doesn't matter because that's the past. It was a different coach, different philosophy, or how much of that do you put into your thought process? Are you going to find, you say you're going to find it out in spring ball as much as anything, but how much does that matter?
Well, that's the first thing we did in our first defensive meeting. I asked Coach Johnson and Coach Freeman, I said, let's go through each kid and talk to me about him on what kind of person they are, what kind of work ethic they have, how do they do in the classroom, and how they do on the football field. And they gave me an impression of what each kid is like. But I've also talked to the kids about, hey, this is a clean slate. There is no depth chart right now. How in the world would I know how you can do? I don't know. You may have performed really well against one team, but I don't know what you were taught in that situation. So that is going to be open. We're going to move a lot of guys in and out. Everybody has a new opportunity. But getting to know the players, at least through those two coaches' eyes, really helped me. But that's where we started, because you got to make sure that what your scheme is, et cetera, fits obviously the personnel that you have.
Because when you look at that, I'm again asking these questions that you don't know the personnel.
That's
so.
okay, don't worry about it.
But, I mean, from a position perspective, linebacker would appear to be a strength, just based on what's coming back and some of the talent, the skill set kind of there, and obviously secondary is a big unknown, really, especially at the cornerback spot. So when you say, okay, let's put an extra defensive back out there, could an extra defensive back be a linebacker in a 3-4 look?
If
is it about putting your best players on the field?
It is, yes,
if
they can execute what they need to execute. But we can change the scheme too.
Right.
Ideally, we match. If they have speed on the field, we have speed. If they have big guys, we have big guys.
Right.
But if we don't have speed to match speed or big guys to match big guys, you got to change the scheme.
Right.
And we have the capabilities of doing that. So, yeah, it's going to be interesting to see how it all plays out. I'll let you know after spring ball.
Yeah. What do you, kind of obvious question, but what do you want to get accomplished this spring?
I want to get accomplished several things. Number one, I want to get accomplished a general overall knowledge of our package. Not defense A, defense B, defense C, but schematically concepts of A through D, concepts of E through J, et cetera, because that's how our defensive package is set up. And as long as they can understand a little bit about this concept, a little bit about this concept, how we fit runs, how we cover, et cetera, then we can start picking and choosing defenses. I don't want them to memorize it by defense. That's not how this works. Because then you can't make any adjustments at all. You need to learn the whole concept of a package and then go on to the next concept, et cetera. So I want to get that accomplished. And then obviously, like every defensive coach, we want to be able to swarm to the football. We want to have great effort. We want to have great enthusiasm. We want to communicate. We want to be very physical, all those kind of things that every defense does. Those are the things we want to get done this spring.
So when we watch you on television or in person, you're going to be one of those, and I've seen you obviously in your past days, but are you a yeller on the sidelines? Are you going to be a real demonstrative guy, or will you be on the sidelines?
First of all, no. I'll be up
You'll
at
be
the press
upstairs.
box.
So therefore, you're going to. Then when they go to you for the shot during the game, you'll have to be able to know that you're on TV. Then you can signal to them.
Yeah, you got to watch that anymore. Is that stuff up? You used to be able to get away with it, and there was never a camera there. Now there always is. But as long as you have quality people down on the sideline.
So Marcus will be down.
Marcus will be down. Tabor will be down.
Yeah.
Randy will be down. The other three guys will be down. It'll be the GAs and me upstairs, I think. And as long as you can communicate and they can project the message, they're great coaches. They can handle all that stuff down there. But I even did this as a head coach. When I was at Hastings College, I was down on the field for the first 5 games. We went 1-4. I wasn't getting the information to be able to call the defense that I wanted, so I said, heck with this, I'm going to go upstairs in the press box as a head coach, and we won 20-some straight conference games after that. Not that that's the only reason why, but it sure does help just to be able to get away from everybody, focus on the actual call, and be able to see everything.
I spoke with Mark King, who is the Lincoln Southwest coach, who apparently you've known since like the 80s.
Yeah. Mark, my son's high school football coach,
Yeah.
the guy who I coached under this last fall, was a graduate assistant at Nebraska Omaha when that was where I played college football. So I show up as a true freshman, and Mark King was a graduate assistant coach at that time. So it's been a long time since I've known Kinger.
He was very complimentary of you, and I thought it was interesting. He said, he loved the way you treated the guys. He loved how you got kind of gelled with the coaching staff. He said there was no ego there. Is that? I'm assuming that's just your personality. But
Yes.
is that hard at all when you're this Nebraska?
No.
And you go there and you're able just to kind of seamlessly fit. You said you're opinionated, so.
Oh, I'm very opinionated now, and
but you still made it work.
Well, the thing is, you gotta understand, it's their program, it's not my program. I'm gonna be there 1 year. King told me when he hired me, he goes, I'm firing you after 1 year. I said, I understand that, I've been there before. But with him and the assistants, they were fantastic. It was, Ross, here's what we do, now what would you suggest based on this package? And I'm not gonna come in and change somebody else's package. I'm going to run what they want to run, but hopefully was able to interject some things technique-wise or a little bit of scheme to be able to maybe make it a little bit better. I don't know, but what a fantastic group of guys. Had a ball. And again, being able to coach my son. My dad did that for me. I played under my dad in high school. Never forget it, and I'm sure my son and I won't either.
Yeah, we talked about your dad, being a long-time high school coach. What do you do completely differently than him, or what did you learn most from him, and what did you take into your coaching life as much as anything?
Well, the difference is the game of football has changed so much. It's so much more complex now, and it a lot more fundamentals probably were taught, at that time at the high school level now than what's taught now, because everybody's got to catch up scheme-wise, which I don't agree with, but that's the way it's probably done. What I learned most from my dad is how to treat people. My dad and mom are fantastic people. They're just good, ethical, hard-working, just what you'd picture a good educator and a good family person like my dad and my mom both are. And I can't say enough about how much of an influence they've had in my life, let alone football. And if you treat people right and you work hard, you can be successful in anything.
How long did he coach? How long was
I think he became head coach, like 1970, I believe, and went well into the 80s. So for 20 years or so, he was head coach, and then he was an athletic director. Took a swing at golf coach for a while. He said, well, no, wait, every Friday I have to go out and play golf. Yeah, I'll do that.
Yeah.
So I don't know how he got that gig, but my sister was an athlete. All my kids are athletes. Everybody's athletic in our family, my wife's family, a bunch of athletes. It's just kind of, that's all we know. So for me getting into coaching, there was no question on what I was going to do.
Something else that Mark had said that kind of struck me was, he said, you're not a pound a square peg in a round hole kind of guy. And he thought that really helped dealing with high school kids who, obviously your knowledge level is here and theirs isn't quite there, but you were able to really kind of be a people person and motivate in a way. I mean, will that trait maybe serve you well here coming into a new situation again with, having to teach again, even though hopefully their knowledge is a little bit better, but I mean, just being able to have that help.
Well, again, to me, it goes back to relationships and what existed before. And again, when I talked to Taver and Marcus, the other question besides ability is, all right, give me the mindset of the defense. What's their work ethic? What's their work ethic like? What do they do well? What don't they do well, et cetera, in your opinion? And every one of them said, Coach, they're hungry. They want to win. So let's get those tools. How is the work ethic? And same thing with Dwayne and strength. They worked their tail off last summer, but they didn't see the results in the win and loss column, even though there were 3 or 4 games that were right there that could have happened. So it wasn't a culture change. Coach Hazel does a fantastic job with the culture. Our kids are very good kids. They work hard and they do things right and they do well in the classroom. It's just what little things can we do to get them over the hump? And that's the things that we've been focusing on right now. If it was a situation where they were bad kids and they didn't work hard, then you got to come in and put the hammer down. But that's not it right now. They need help They needed change, I guess, a little bit. Otherwise, Coach Hazel wouldn't have done it on both sides of the ball. So maybe those little changes can push us over. We'll find out in the fall.
What is that little thing, though? Is it, I mean, because one of the challenges, I think, is going for any coach when you're trying to turn a program around and have that is to be able to get them confidence. Because, Coach Darrell Hazel had talked a lot about that in the last year. How do you instill confidence when you haven't seen it on the field? What are some of the strategies you try to do to say, we can do this as a unit? I mean, what do you try to get done from that standpoint when the wins and losses haven't been there?
A person is confident when they've done things right over and over and over and over and over again. For example, when we all three walked into this studio, we didn't think about putting our right foot forward and our left arm and our right. You've done so many times you don't think about it.
Speak for yourself.
Yeah, well, I understand that. I understand that. Believe me, I'm there with you. But so those kind of putting them in those situations that they've done so many times before that they have the confidence they can execute. An example of how we can help with that is our installation, and we met on that this morning defensively as far as how fast we were going to put things in. We're not going to put things in fast. Our offense is going to have some things in scheme-wise that beat us. We have adjustments to make, but if we're not ready to get to that adjustment yet because we haven't learned the base, we aren't going to go to step 2 until we get step 1 down. And then when they do learn step 1 and they become incredibly confident, then we'll go down to step 2. And as long as I think as long as you keep things in that order and that perspective, the confidence will grow because they will have confidence in what they're trying to execute.
Will Compton is a guy who played for you at Nebraska. He's with the Redskins now. When I spoke with him, he had mentioned that he had to do a paper for one of his classes, and he had to interview someone whose profession that he had planned to go in. He wants to get in coaching. And so he talked to you, and he said you told him, don't do it.
Right.
Obviously, you're very passionate about what you do,
yes.
and you've been very emphatic about it. I know this is what I want,
right.
Absolutely. So why do you tell a guy not to do it?
If you can picture yourself doing anything other than coaching football, do it because of the time it takes away from your family. We were talking off camera here a little bit about my daughter. Her volleyball team won the state championship in Ohio. There's 200 schools in one class in Ohio, so they were the best of 200 schools. I missed the state championship game. What dad does that?
Yeah.
What dad misses your son's football games as they're growing up? Who does that? So that's why I do say that. It does take a lot of time away from your family. Now, if you're like me and you can't picture yourself doing anything else at all, then let's go. And that's what if you ask most coaches, that's what happens is they say, no, this is what I want to do.
Yeah.
It's the other thing besides being gone is, hey, time to move. It could be your fault because you did really well. It could be somebody else's fault. Doesn't matter. But job security in this profession is horrible, no matter what level you're at. And if you have a family, it's tough to pull your kids out of schools and say, come on, leave every friend you've had your whole life and let's go do something else. That's why I tell the guys that. But the ones that really, really, really want to do it, and those are the ones you want to have in the profession anyway, do it anyway.
What did you learn from Bo Pelini in terms of the family sense? Because he had told me another story about, Bo kind of caught you in the office on a Sunday or something, and he said, doesn't your son have a game today? And you're like, yeah, but I'm trying to get ahead. And he said, don't ever do that again. I mean, how do you find the balance then of, wanting to be really good at your job, but wanting to be a good dad?
You have to. It's like any other job. We all have multiple things that we have to do in our jobs, and balancing the family life is part of that. And everybody I've worked with has been fantastic, including Coach Hazel. I went in the other day and said, hey, spring break's coming up. I'd like to go home and get the house ready to sail. And he goes, don't even ask, just go. And Bo was the same way, and he wanted you to attend your kids' stuff because he had the same thing, and we worked our schedule around our kids' schedule. And then if we had to meet till midnight, 1 in the morning, and then get up and be ready to go by 7 the next, that's just what you did. That's how but you need to have that balance, and family needs to be important because they're going to be around a lot longer than the current football team you're around. And the fortunate thing about adding to the family is every kid you coach becomes part of that family. A guy like Will Compton, boy, what a joy it was to coach him, and I'm still able to talk to him, and he's living his dream starting in the NFL, and it's really fun to follow other members of your family like that.
First impression of West Lafayette outside of gray and a little bit of cold, but you've done that before.
Yep.
What's your thoughts on the community, just in what you see?
Great people. To a T, very friendly, very helpful. Everybody at the university, when you go through the hiring process of all the paperwork that needs to be, well, that my wife handles, very accessible, very helpful. You go into stores, people are willing to help you. It's just good people that want to help each other, and that's the place you want to live. It's large. To me, this is an ideal place because it's large enough that there are options out there. You go down State Street in Lafayette, and my goodness, there's every restaurant that you want to go to. But it's also not too big where your players can get into trouble because there's too many things going on. I think it's an ideal location. Love the academic structure that's here. You can be successful at Purdue University.
We got time for one more question.
Last
if you
one,
have
it's going to be a really hard-hitting one. Last time we talked, you said how competitive you are.
Yep.
Have you gotten Blau in ping pong yet?
No, but I want to. I'll take on all comers in ping pong. I want to go.
You have a table? Isn't there a table
There's
down
a
there?
table down in the room, and I just have not gone down there yet.
Okay. Just wanted to put it on the record, issuing the challenge.
Anytime. Anybody wants to come over, let's go.
It's a big wide world of internet out there. There's I
Like a
promise
Twitter
you
challenges
millions,
now.
if not billions of people watching. And that's possible. Coach, thanks so much.
Thanks,
A
guys.
pleasure. You're
Appreciate it.
going
Thanks,
to have
Al. Appreciate
a good experience here. I am certain, and certainly with your attitude, and certainly have enjoyed getting to know you just a little bit. And we'll see you a lot more, obviously, in 2016 and beyond. All right, we're going to take a short break, come back in a couple minutes with Dave Shondell, and have the opportunity to talk to Purdue's volleyball coach about volleyball, sure, but also athletic director Morgan Burke and other things as well. We'll look forward to doing that when we come back on Golden Black Live.